Have you ever been in a situation where one decision changed your life and everyone's life around you? One decision that sends you on a one-way trip to the penitentiary and someone else to the afterlife. Scott Jr. Ereckson was in that very position. The scene was San Diego, California, 1982. Junior and his brothers enter the bar, and who was there? The enemy, a member of an outlaw motorcycle club, a member of the Hells Angels. What really happened that night? Well, let's hear it directly from the source, Scott Jr. Ereckson.
I'm Scott Jr. Ereckson, and this is my story.
So I just got this apartment, had bed down for the night, and I get a phone call. He said, hey, we're going to a bar and we need you to come get security. So when they told me that, the type of things that we were doing, the way we were living down there, when they told me that, I knew that I needed to come with nothing on, no patch, no insignias, and I knew that I needed to be low profile. I knew I needed, when I came in that bar, I couldn't look, I couldn't talk to any of my brothers. I had to go grab a drink, I had to go sit down. You know, I was strapped at the time, and I was there to protect these guys, and I had no problem doing that. The watering hole we went to was also known for Hells Angels. We went there once in a while, but it was more of I think a red and white type of bar. I mean, we were so tight in the mix with those guys. Every time we went to a bar, if we didn't recognize the bikes, we knew it was them. I mean, you could go to any bar and they'll come rolling in. It was like local bars, they'll come rolling in, we'll come rolling in. I mean, the conflict could be at any time. So we went to that bar one night, and it was in Lemon Grove. So I was up in this little booth, and I'm minding my own business, and I was drinking a 7-Up and grenadine. I had to, keep sharp, and I'm looking. I look over and I see this guy playing pinball. He's got a gal with him, and at the time, my bros were shooting pool. And he kept looking, and he kept talking to the girl, and she kept looking, and I just sensed something was wrong. He was nervous. He was telling her stuff. He'd keep looking. So she gets up and she goes to the phone. So when she goes to the phone, that drew my attention. Like, okay, something's going on here. So I went around, and I'm next to him now. He's on a pinball game. But, he's faking playing pinball, but he's really just eyeballing everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm standing there, and I'm watching him playing pinball. And I'm watching him, and I look, and I see the lights were dim. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I see a sparkle on his finger. It's a ring, and I'm looking. He's hitting the buttons, and the sparkle keeps going every time he moves his finger. I look, and I closer, and it's a freaking death head. It's a death head. It's a Hell's Angel ring. I go back and I sit down, and I'm thinking to myself, okay. So the guy that was the P for us that night, I signaled him to go to the bathroom, and he came in, and he says, what's going on? And I said, I got one, dude. He says, you sure? I said, I got one. And I said, what do you want to do? So he tells me, he says, you know what? He says, it was probably a good decision. He says, there's a lot of people in here right now. There was probably 15, 20 people. He says, we've all been in here. He says, I don't think this is the time to do it. And my argument to him was, well, look, no one knows me. I'm in a hoodie and got tennis shoes on. I said, why don't you guys just pull out, and I'll pop this guy and I'll walk out the back door.
They had vests on and everything?
No, he didn't have nothing. All I saw was that ring.
But your brothers have...
They were all flying their colors, yeah.
Yeah.
So they said, nah, they've been fingered here, don't do it. And I said, all right. I said, okay. He says, let's do this. He goes, let's just fuck this dude up. He goes, just make a fucking statement with this guy, right? And just handle it right now. And I said, I got it. And they said, all right. So they went back to playing pool, and I came back out, went back to the pinball game. Now, when I came back to the pinball game, he was gone. He had gone to the phone or whatever. So I'm looking, and I noticed there's a quarter still in the game. So I started playing it. Sure enough, he comes walking back around. He tells me, he says, hey, dude, he says, I had a quarter in that game. Well, I said, well, I thought you left. He says, well, I didn't leave. And I said, okay. So I backed off. I look at it, I said, hey, you know what? And he looks at me, and I said, fuck the Hells Angels. And when I told him that, he was just in shock. I could see it in his face. He could not believe I was saying that and didn't even know how. I knew he was. He was just in shock. So as I finished the sentence, I clipped him right in the chin. When I clipped him in the chin, he dropped. But when I clipped him, I had a 38. The 38 fell out of my belt. So when he dropped, he landed almost right on that 38. Oh. So now all of a sudden, it's a fumble. It's a football fumble, and the football is the 38, and we're fighting for the ball. So we're wrestling for this thing, and I get it. The minute I get it, he got up and he was trying to get the out of there. He was yelling. He was going, no, you know, and I had that gun out, and all these things were going through my mind. Don't do it, don't do it. The only thing I could think about at that millisecond was everything that had brought us to this point with these guys. All the beatings, all them shooting at us, all the shit and Jingles and Redbeard, everything had come to a point in my mind. And you know what? I just pointed that gun, I let it fly, I let it rock. And the thing that was so unique about the incident, you know, maybe it's got to do with death or death is going to happen, because I had the same feeling on a motorcycle crash, but everything went into slow motion frames on this thing. And I swear, everything was going so slow that I swear I saw the bullet leave the end of that gun. It was coming out that slow.
Wow.
So the bullet hit him and it spun him. And as he was going towards the door, I guess he already was hit once. I fired another round, but I'm pretty sure that missed. As he was going for the door, one of our guys cracked him over the back with a bar stool. He went down. By this time, everybody was out the door. Everybody in the bar, our guys were out the door. Everybody in the bar was face down. And I walked up to him and let him have it again. And there's a way that they look. There's a way in their eyes. There's a color in their skin that when it happens, you know it's done. It was done. So, you know, people ask me how I feel about that, and I'm going to explain. You know, looking back in retrospect, I feel bad about taking a life. I mean, it was a mother's son, but, you know, we were at war, man. All I saw was an enemy. And it was something that had to happen at the time for our club to progress and to gain the respect that we needed to get. I mean, we didn't have any respect. We were such a small club. I mean, we were fighting locals. In fact, we were fighting cowboys in the bars. They didn't have respect for us. We weren't well known. We were considered a neighborhood motorcycle club. And once this happened, people looked at us differently. So, like I said, am I happy that I did it? I don't know. But it had to happen. I'm glad it happened, and it happened.
So once it happened, did you get locked up right there on the scene, or did it happen after?
No. So what happened was we all went to that little apartment that I had rented, and the brothers were angry at the time with me. They're going, "Man, why did you do that?" And I just kept saying, you know, I don't know. It was just a reflex, and I said, I'm just tired. I said, I'm just tired of fucking with these dudes. I said, I'm sorry, you know, I just did it. And they said, dude, we got to figure out what we're going to do. So what happened was, we waited that night in the apartment because we didn't know for sure if the guy was dead. I knew he was dead because I could tell. They kept telling me, are you sure? Are you sure he's dead? I said, he's dead, dude. So we waited, and about 4 or 5 o'clock, the news came on, and it said that a Hell's Angel was slain at the so-and-so bar, and they thought it was another motorcycle club. I don't think they put our names out at the time. And so everybody kind of took off. I think we took off. I took off to Oklahoma at the time and changed my name. I had a connection out there and got a new ID and was running with the brothers out there in Tulsa. So I was out there probably for 6 months, and they caught wind of what was going on, and then they started kicking in doors in Oklahoma looking for me. So then I had left from Oklahoma to Texas, and I got notice from the club at the time through a go-between that they had already got an attorney, and they had somehow pretty much discussed a deal. The deal was for me to come back in, and they were going to try to get me a manslaughter for this thing. So what I did is I talked about it and discussed it with a few people, and went ahead and turned myself in. So when I got back in, all the brothers were there, the brothers that were with me that night. And I told those guys, I said, look, I did this shit. I said, beknownst to you guys knowing about it. I said, you told me not to. I said, I did it. I said, I'll take the rap. And the guy was in prez at the time. Tells me, he says, hey, he says, you know what you're doing? I said, yeah. He says, you're in a fucking life sentence. I said, I know. I said, I'll take the L, man, so you guys don't have to do no time.
But isn't premeditated murder life, but when it's like a, random, you bump into each other somewhere and something happens and somebody dies, isn't that manslaughter?
Well, you got to see, here's the deal. What it was is we had ongoing conflict. So they were taking this thing to the max. They were maxing everything to a gang-related deal. So the guy who was the president of my chapter at the time tells me in front of everybody else, says, no. He says, we're all doing the time. He says, you're not getting the life sentence. Wow. Yep. And there was another 3 of them. Well, there was 4 of them. I'm not going to talk about the 4th one or what happened. But the 3 of them that stood out, that were solid, we all went to prison together. They did that time for me.
Wow.
And I can't utmost display of brotherhood.
That's like 1 in a million. I don't even think like any, how many people do you really hear do that,
No, and these guys all did, I got the most amount of time on that. I did 8 years. I think the prez got 6. The other 2 guys got 4. And you know what? We all went to the pen. Nobody whined. Nobody cried. We did our time.
What was that dynamic like? Because I know in California, everything is like race. So if you got a lot of brothers that's like Chicano and like you're with the Woods, like how does that work in the prison system?
Okay, so when I went the first time, there was a lot of Hells Angels in the system. You're talking about the state of California. They had about a half a dozen of us locked up at a different facility. So what they were doing was, when I went to classification, the guy that had classification tells me, he says, there's a war in the street. He goes, but there ain't going to be no war in my frickin' pen, is what he told me. So what they did is they had us, there's about 7 or 8 of us at one institution. We kept us separated from the other guys. Now, while I was there, they had sent a couple of sleepers to try and hit me when I was in there. So, but we had the thing, there were so many of us there, we had people in all the work in, we had people here, people there. So as soon as this guy hit the yard, we knew about it. So we told those guys, send him to our yard. So when they sent him, we were already waiting for him. So when he came to the yard, I just went right up to him. I said, I know who you are, I know why you're here. I said, you got to get up out of here. I said, you ain't going to make it. You ain't going to make it a day. Turned around, went right to the man and got out.
Wow.
Yep.
In the next episode of the Scott Jr. Ereckson story, we talk about the Queen Mary situation between the Mongols and the Hells Angels at the Easy Rider Bike Show. Thousands of people there, and it all boiled down to one altercation. And this is what cemented the Mongols MC in California.